As I said, I'd like to welcome you here today to commemorate the Vietnam Veterans Day. I'd like to introduce here the Australian Ambassador, Mr. Alistair Cox, the Australian Consul General, Mr. Graham Swift, the New Zealand Consul General, Mr. Graham Sims, and also Father Tom Shanahan, who was chaplain of the 1st Australian Task Force in 1969-70. And we'd also, most importantly, like to welcome the veterans who have returned here today. We also have in our presence Mr. Don Montgomery, who was a member of 10 Platoon Delta Company here 44 years ago. I'd now like to invite the Australian Consul General, Mr. Graham Swift, to commence the service.
Veterans, families and friends, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. It's wonderful to see so many people here. Many of you have travelled very far to share in this commemoration service, so thank you very, very much for coming. I'm very pleased to have with me here today Mr. Alistair Cox, the Ambassador for Vietnam, New Zealand Consul General, Mr. Graham Sims, and the Australian Defence Attaché to Vietnam, Colonel Stuart Dodds. On this site, 44 years ago, there was a battle so significant and so intense for Australian troops in Vietnam that the 18th of August is now recognised as Vietnam's Veterans Day to remember all Australian soldiers who fought and died in this country. At approximately this time in 18 August 1966, soldiers from D Company of the 6th Battalion Royal Australian Regiment encountered and engaged the enemy in battle. The battle raged for 4 hours, much of it in pelting rain. 18 young Australians lost their lives and a further 24 were wounded. Of the 17 Australians from D Company who lost their lives in the Battle of Long Tan, the oldest was 22, the youngest only 19. 11 of the dead were national servicemen, conscripts, who comprised 80% of D Company. And one member of 3 Troop, the 1st APC Squadron, also died of wounds he received in the battle. Many others also played their part, including those involved in the artillery support so crucial throughout the battle, the risky resupply of ammunition by helicopter at around 6 p.m, and the APC who arrived on the scene at nightfall. The Battle of Long Tan was certainly not the largest or the most protracted battle Australian troops experienced what we call the Vietnam War. But the professionalism, the bravery, the resolution and the resourcefulness of which our soldiers fought at the Battle of Long Tan has written into the annals of Australian military history. It is remembered alongside other battles in our military history fought in iconic campaigns such as Trubuk, Kokoda, Lone Pine and Beersheba. Those who gave us so much reason to be proud, right here as well as elsewhere in the Vietnam War and other conflicts, went to war not because they glorified in it, but because they shared a sense of right and duty. Yet through their actions, they defined their own national identity to the world. Not many of us today can do much to alleviate the pain which some of our veterans feel to this day. What we can do, though, is honour the memory who paid with their lives, or their health, or their peace of mind, primarily here in Vietnam, but also in many other fields of conflict. And that is what we are here today doing. We do so by remembering and mourning. We do so by celebrating our good fortune to the citizens of countries whose way of life men and women like these have fought to safeguard. We do so by committing ourselves anew to work for peace wherever it is threatened. We also honour the loved ones of those who fought, many of whom have borne enduring pain of a kind few of us can hope to comprehend. In the case of those families who have borne the sorrow of not knowing where their loved ones lay buried, the searches for Australian servicemen missing in action in Vietnam over the last 4 years has resulted in the successful retrieval and return of the remains of all 6 Australian missing in action servicemen. Our success was initiated and driven by the determination of the Operation Aussie's home team, and supported and continued by MIA teams from the Australian and Vietnamese governments. Australia is now reciprocating by supporting joint search efforts for Vietnamese MIA. And we hope through this humanitarian effort we will be able to provide Vietnamese families with the same closure, as well as continuing to contribute towards the process of reconciliation between our 2 countries. Those people whose service and sacrifice we honour today, here in these simply but richly evocative surroundings, deserve to be counted alongside all those whose selfless courage has contributed to the shaping of our national character. My fervent hope is that our gathering here, in this land of our former foes and in their presence, will help in the healing and reconciliation process for veterans who fought in Vietnam, and indeed of all conflicts in which our troops have been called to take part, lest we forget.
The Long Tan Honour Roll. Private Richard A. Aldersey. Corporal Peter E. Clements. Private Glenn A. Drabble. Private Kenneth H. Gant. Private Ernest F. Grant. Private Victor R. Grice. Private James M. Houston. Lance Corporal Jack Dury. Private Paul A. Large. Private Albert F. McCormick. Private Dennis J. McCormick. Private Warren D. Mitchell. Private Douglas J. Salveron. Second Lieutenant Gordon C. Sharp. Private David J. Thomas. Private Francis B. Top. Private Maxwell R. Wales. And Private Colin J. Whiston. And the more than 245 unnamed young Vietnamese soldiers who also died on this day. I now call upon the Ambassador to recite the oath.
We shall not grow old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget.
The last post.
Ngày đọc